Hey guys, Jessica Henry here. Super happy to be back this Friday. I have sort of a fun project that I want to do with you guys today. I am going to paint an ocean wave, and I'm going to talk about transparency and keeping your colors clean. So that is on the agenda today. What I want to talk about real quick before I get going on that is I just wanted to explain why an ocean wave. Next year I have 4 workshops scheduled, and the common thread in all of those workshops is the ocean. So I'll be in Ireland and the south of England along the coast, Amalfi Coast in Italy, and then in Australia. So very excited about that, and more news on all of those. We're going to get all that information up on our website pretty soon. The Ireland one is already up. I just announced that last week, and it's almost half full. So actually I think it's just over half full. So if you're interested in that, go to our website, renaissancecreativearts.com, and take a look. And if you want to stay up to date on whatever workshops I'll be having, you can just go and click the newsletter or whatever. All right, so we're gonna get going on this, and I have my regular palette. I'm actually my format's gonna be a little bit different for this video. I'm gonna leave my palette here while I'm painting so you can see what I'm doing while I'm doing it, and I'm gonna have up in the corner a little screen showing the actual wave that I'm painting from. Okay, so on my palette today I have titanium white, cadmium yellow medium. I'm not gonna use the red. I have yellow ochre, burnt sienna, ultramarine blue, and phthalo green, and I may use just a tiny bit of alizarin crimson. Okay, let's get going. And remember, if you like the video, to go ahead and like and subscribe, and then hit the little bell so that you're notified whenever I put a new video up. Okay, so to begin with, I am going to actually set my palette down here while I tone the canvas. I'm just going to put a thin coat of paint on my palette. And I'm just taking my big brush. And normally when I tone my canvas, I will use burnt sienna and ultramarine blue. Today I'm going to use some ultramarine blue. Now let's grab a little bit of yellow ochre. We'll just make a little bit of a bluish green color. Okay, so I just grabbed a little bit of cadmium yellow. Let's make that thinner. And the reason that I chose to tone the canvas in this color today is because if there are places that show through, like if I don't apply really thick, heavy paint on it, then it's okay to me that just the canvas shows, because it works with the overall color scheme of the painting. So when I tone a canvas, I get it a little bit darker than I need, because I'm going to wipe it off, because right now there's a really slick layer. Grabbing a little bit more yellow, because right in here, oops, let's go cad yellow. Right in here is where I'm going to put that main wave crest. It doesn't have to be exact, but again, if it shows through, then I want it to be that transparent color. Today I'm going to be talking a little bit more about transparency and also keeping your colors clean. So how you do that. All right, so I'm going to, again, just like I always do, wipe some of this off. Move this out of the way. That's okay if it blurs and whatever, just as long as the suggestion is there. Some of that. Okay, so now that does not have that slick surface that this stuff added to it, so it's kind of a little, not really dry, but it has sort of a drier tactile quality to it. All right, so I am going to set this up here. I'm going to figure this out. All right, and then what I'm going to do is, as you can see up in the corner here, the wave that I'm going to be referring to, my first rule on my canvas is to figure out the composition. So I'm going to reach way over here and get the colors. A little bit of thinned mixture. This is my bandsaw, and I've got my paper towels here. So I'm just going to use a little bit of ultramarine blue, yellow ochre, just to make a thin, kind of just a darker tone. This is for the purpose of drawing in my composition. Okay, so now I don't want to split the canvas in half, and as I look at my reference picture up in here, I have to decide how much of that upper water do I need. I don't need all of this surface up here to be water as much as it's in the picture. So let's figure on, I mean, this cresting wave here is what's really what the picture is all about. So I want it to be low enough though so we get a lot of that pretty splashes. Okay, so just drawing this in, and I know that it kind of curls about right here, and then we've got this whole passage in here. You know what, these rocks come down like this. I just don't want to give them too much importance because they're really not part of the whole show. However, they frame and set all this off. You see how I put this right in the middle? That's really bad composition, so I'm going to move that over like this. That's better. Because look, it'd be right in line with the crest too, so we don't want to do that. Okay, so that's pretty simple. That's a simple start, right? Okay, so it's going to go like that. So this will be the direction up here of that movement as it comes around. And then down here, my brush strokes are going to be more horizontal because the water's picking up. And then all of this region in here will include splashes and stuff. So this is what's all going to be water, that darker blue. And that's important up there too because it'll really frame in the activity going on in here. Okay, so I am going to start laying down this whole background and we're going to work our way forward. Okay, so getting some paint on my brush. Oh, you know what? I don't like this brush. I'm going to get a different one. The bristles are too flexible and I can't get the structure of the paint to work for me. Okay, back on track. Now, since I'm done with the laying in of my pattern, I'm going to use a little bit more linseed oil. I guess you could. I've never used olive oil. I don't think you can. Okay, so I'm going to make sort of that darkish blue-green as I see it back there. Ultramarine blue, grabbed a little bit of burnt sienna and some yellow ochre. Now I'm squinting down at that scene. I'm just painting in the darker patches as I see them. And they're not all the same going all the way across. Okay, let's put in a little more yellow ochre into that mixture because as the darkness comes closer, there's a greener tint to it. Let's get that green going. Okay, and over here, the blue on this side isn't as dark as those blues, so I'm going to add a little bit of white to that. That's fine. It still looks as dark, doesn't it? Let's add some more white. Maybe that's too light. All right, we'll go with it, and then we can add darkers if we want to. So actually I'm seeing, when I squint down at that image, I see a lot of this color in here. So we're going to just dab this in where I see it. And this is actually much lighter blue in there, so I'm not going to go down that far. I think I'll come back in there with more dark. But there's this really nice movement to these brush strokes back in here that I really want to capture that wave feeling. Okay? One thing I don't want to do is just use the same paint all over a specific area. So you want to make sure that you mix it up enough. There's a really, even light and paint doesn't stay the same across a surface. It has so much change. If you look at, your living room light as the lamp is on, and look at how the light moves up the wall and away from the light source. That's what I mean by movement of light. And we can see that even in this wave, it's less here, and then it gets more intense and builds right here. So we're going to play with that too. So one thing I don't want to do is spend too much time on this background. That's why I'm working kind of quickly back here. I'm just kind of working into some of that green to make it less obtrusive. And I don't want this to, where the splash is to be, I don't want that to be a strong cutout look, so I'm going to blend some of the blue behind it so I'll overlap. So the blue will be here, and then I'll paint the white foam over that. So we're going down further than we need with that. So that passage in here is going to be a little bit more white with yellow ochre. So I said I would talk about the Ireland workshop, and this is a good place to do that. Next July, from the 1st to the 5th, we are planning to go to Connemara, Galway, and then the Aran Islands. And I gotta tell you, I am so excited. We're gonna take a day trip to the Aran Islands and plein air paint over there. But here's the best part. Because I decided that people like to manage their own accommodations and eating and so forth, and they like to be able to have control over that if they want to stay somewhere fancy or they want to just camp or whatever. So that choice is up to you. So all I'm charging for the workshop is the week of tuition. So I am charging $450 for 5 days in Ireland. So I am just so excited. That's why it's almost full, filling up quickly. So if that is something that you are interested in, let me know right away. And we'll make a waiting list if we have to, but because people do cancel, you know. But yeah, so that's very affordable and beautiful. Ireland is just enchanting. There's something special about it. And we will be painting, you know, whatever we get inspired by. I will be every morning, the first morning of my workshops, I give a talk. It's kind of a meet and greet, and we talk about expectations at a workshop and, you know, what's involved and so forth. Get to know each other. Maybe we can have donuts or coffee or whatever there is. And then after that, I do a demo. We go out, and depending on where we go the first day, we may caravan, drive separate, whatever. But we'll drive to the location, and then we will set up. I will set up and do a demo. And then after the demo, everyone will get set up. We'll probably have to stop for lunch, and then afterwards, everyone will get set up and begin painting a scene. And I love to go around and help everybody several times a day, depending on the class size. If I can get to everybody, you know, a few times, it's awesome. So lots of individual attention, and so that's how the week would go then. You know, every morning we would drive out to our setting, do a demo, and then break for lunch. And we need to make that a little darker. Yep, I'm using my left hand now. And then everybody gets to paint in the afternoon. And then in the evenings, of course, in Ireland, there's never a shortage of things to do. We'll try to catch some authentic Irish traditional music and some local pub. Just relax, talk art, talk about the day. I think that'd be wonderful. I know some of the people who've already signed up. For a number of the people, this is their first time doing a workshop, or some of them, it's even their first time plein air painting, so that's really cool. We got some first timers and some people who are a little more experienced. So there's all kinds that join in these workshops. And I will be teaching and demonstrating in oils, but you know, one person may be just drawing the whole time or whatever, and that's okay too. Whatever you need to do. I will tell you though, it is much more difficult to plein air paint in acrylics because they like to dry quickly. And so, just a heads up there. Okay, I think that's as far as I need to go for that background. I don't think it needs much more. Now, one of the keys to keeping your colors clean is to keep your brush clean. And I'm always cleaning my brush off or wiping it off on my paper towel. So that is vital. That's the first step. Okay, so now as we move forward, we're going to put in these beautiful transparent colors. So I'm going to start with, let's start with under the crest, and then we'll get what's coming up over, working in layers. So that one, I've got my phthalo green over here, and I'm just going to mix it right into what I already have. Let's get some cadmium yellow into that. Look at that's beautiful. So getting transparent colors. I like to use cadmiums for that transparent effect because I just feel that you're able to do that. It's just a beautiful color to use. Okay, so now I'm squinting down at my wave, and you can see it up here in the corner that I'm just putting this color green only where I see it. Now, one of the things that a lot of people like to do is, it's a pretty color, so you just start painting with it all over. And you've got to stop though, and look, you know what? I can't paint this all the way down because that's a different shade of green. But I do see that some of this color is here. And I see some of it is on the inside of this crest. Like that. So you paint it where you see it, but nowhere else. Okay, so let's add a little bit darker green to that, because as the wave goes down, it gets darker and darker down below. Do I have that color anywhere else? Let's see, a little bit there. And the thing about doing something like this wave, the first time I painted this image, is it felt very abstract to me. There were a lot of, you know, what is that shape? But then as you get going along, it all starts to make sense, and then it all comes together at the end. I'm going to make that a little darker in there because I see it a little darker, but I don't mind that there's this nice transition color in between. I see a spot down here. Any over here? Not really. That's about it there. Okay, let's make that darker as we go down into shadow. I'll put some yellow ochre in there. I'll just take some of that blue that we already have. Oh yeah, grass. That's almost a grass green. I see some of it down in here. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm having a blast with this. I am really enjoying this painting already. A little bit more blue, a little more yellow ochre right in here. Squinting down at that wave, it gets really dark in here. I know that there's going to be foam in here, but I'm putting the color under the foam, and then I'll paint the foam over the top. And I'm using that phthalo green. It's so pretty with this blue. Nice and dark down here. And that'll really offset that splash color. Keeping my brush strokes horizontal, as I said at the beginning. Now there's a little bit of sky peeking through, reflecting on this part of the crest where it flattens a little bit. So I'm going to add just a chalky blue suggestion. All right, the rest of that is wave. Now back to this. Where else do I see these colors? That's okay like that. Turn my brush over. Oh, there's a whole bunch more paint on that side. Okay, and then I'm avoiding this passage in here because there's a brighter green in there that I don't have yet on there. Okay, I'm mixing the color that I have on my brush with a little bit of white, and I squint down at that, and that's what I see right in here. sort of like a chalky, a little bit darker sage. Let's get a little more white in there. And I'm painting these specifically darker than where they are up there because I'll be painting the foam over the top and I'm going to lose some of that dark value, so I'm kind of thinking again of it in layers. And a wave like this, where it's really complicated, you have to be squinting and thinking about ways that you can work this in layers. And once I get these whites on there, it'll look all different. Keeping my brush strokes in the direction of that, where I want that wave to go. Still just working in middle tones here. That is that wave shadow color. A little more blue into that, blue and white. More blue and white. It's okay that I still have green on my brush. And now these I am kind of laying it down a little bit different brushwork because that is the foam and that has a different angle. It's not doing this like the water, but it's splashing, and so I'm feeling that it's a little bit all right to give it a little more solid feeling to it. So the brush strokes are a little bit contrasting. Let's go bluer up here. Yeah, that's a good blue. I squint down and that's a little bit lighter. That's what I see in this area. That color. And I'm not worried about the rocks right now because I'll paint those up into it, but I want to make sure that I get the color down low enough so that I can overlap. More blue. That's better. And I've got some little things. I'm kind of getting to that place where I'm putting smaller and smaller pieces of information in here. But before I get into the different varieties of things going on with the foam, because I am seeing a lot of differences in here now, I want to finish the green. So that brush is getting pretty heavily loaded, so I'm cleaning it off. I'm going to move that over just a little and finish the greens in here. So with a little bit of linseed oil. I never use very much linseed oil. Let's get some phthalo green and really kind of clean this up over here. Where else did I see green? These really pretty shades. get a little bit more of that yellow, cadmium yellow. And I saw in this area where I said that there was that brighter color, some of that cadmium yellow. And just getting some of that paint off my brush. Coming over here, squinting down at that all the time. Oh, it's so pretty. I love the ocean. Never get tired of it. I lived on the Pacific Ocean, and I've lived on the Atlantic also, and I really miss it a lot. It is my dream to be back. Popping in a little bit more of those passages where there was some green in there. Okay, I think that that's fine for that for now. All right, I'm going to get a totally different brush. I'll just use this one for now. Okay, so I've mapped in a little bit more of the foam where I see it. I just noticed that I need some foam shadow over here a little bit more, right in here. Okay, so with this brush, I'm gonna get, I'll just leave that right there, a cleaner patch of white, but this is not my brightest white yet. So that has a little bit of blue in it, okay? And my brush is pretty loaded. I'm gonna come up here and start defining the top of this crest. And it's okay if my line is a little bit too thick, because I'm gonna come back over here with either a palette knife or some dry brushing and see what I can come up with. And again, I'm not worried about my brightest whites yet. I am putting this down where those brights are gonna be, but I will add those later with a bright white with a touch of cadmium yellow. Okay, so now here, where the wave is curling and going up, I'm making sure that my brush strokes define that form. And I'll show you some of my favorite messy techniques when I get to the end. It's a lot of fun. We're gonna get messy. Picking up some of that. And I love painting waves too, because it just seems to cry out for thick, big, beautiful brush strokes. And I like that. See how it's shaping up, and then it kind of goes down into the shadow here a little bit. And while I have this on my brush, I'm going to lift this up a little bit more. I'm wiping it off because it may have picked up some of that background wave color, and I really don't want that as I continue working. But again, this is the lower layer of white, not my brightest white, so I will come back and add that later. Now I'm taking my brush and laying it flat and just softening that edge, because I didn't want to see the definitive brush strokes, so just keeping it. I'll come back through again and add a lot more. This is the first layer. And then over here, I'm going to pick up with my brush, scooping some of that white that I laid down nice and thick back into here, because this is mostly like mist back here behind this wave. That's why I said it's okay if the line's a little thick, because I'll be grabbing into that. In fact, I've got some water behind that. Oops, I want that bluer. Wipe that off, it's a little too dark. That just kind of separates the top of the wave from the background just a little bit. All right, back to my waves. This is a brighter white over here. See how that's starting to take on a sculptural feel? And I've got a bright white, which I'll hit with that brighter white. Done. And then this starts to trickle down. The corner of it gets hit right here. And right in there. Okay, so now I'm going to get a little bit smaller brush and get into getting some of the bright whites and some more clarity in that area. So white with a touch of cadmium yellow. And this I'll lay carefully on top. And I don't want to just put this everywhere that I see white, because that would be everywhere. So I'm reserving this bright sunshine white for just the spots where it really needs to have some of that effect of sunlight. As this splash starts to turn and go up, make that a little bit more defined. Nice thick paint. And just let it kind of scumble and drag over the surface, and it has that where it just sort of breaks. Feeling. I'll pop some of this over here. And this is okay, you know, if you had too much coffee and you're kind of shaky, it's kind of fun to do. Like, no, you're not getting in there with the mahl stick or anything. You're just nice and free. But I'm constantly looking at my reference, because you don't. What can easily happen is it can get away from you, and you don't want that to happen either. Sometimes we get having fun, and then you look back and think, oh, I guess I had a lot of fun. All right, so feeling the form of that. And I'm going to keep going with this theme, and just working some of this. And I turn and I jiggle and I turn like that with my brush. Let's make this passage in here nice and thick and bright. Cad yellow. All right, now I'm going to go in with even more detail and start getting some of this thinned mixture coming down over the top and starting to do some of these smaller passages of information and detail. So to make this look like it's really turning, I'm coming over here quickly and grabbing a little, pulling it down. So this is another way. Sometimes by painting something opaque, you can show the contrast of transparency. So we have the transparent wave color underneath the opaque top passage. So we're showing transparency by the contrast. And I want more paint there. I'm going to grab a clean brush and just drag right over the greens, because I want some of these greens to have that nice streaky quality. So that is just the lightest feather touch. And over here too. I don't want to lose the integrity of the color patches, but I do want that feeling of wave glass. Yeah. I don't need to do anything there. Okay, so while I have this brush, I'll just continue on dragging the white down. I can come back there and add more paint there. But I've got to create that feeling of mist in here. Just kind of letting my brush strokes just sort of dance in this sea foam and do its thing that way. And then I'm going to take some of that blue and just kind of suggest where the foam is hitting the lower passage down here. Okay, now we're getting some paint on here. More blue. Blue and white. I think that brush is not dry anymore, so we'll get a clean, dry one. Now what's happening over here? Just twirling. And then there's all kinds of information in here. I don't want to just add white, so I'll add the blue and white because it's still in the shadow down here. Soften that. Okay. So all I'm going to do here now is just in a few spots take just a little bit. There's these foamy clumps flying in the air. It's so cool. I'm going to take my palette knife and just in a few places, just grab it and do this. And that gives you sort of that broken, natural look that I really like. Unpredictable. Now I don't want to get too sloppy because that can start to look sloppy and you really don't want that look. So I'm cleaning up a little bit of this. Okay. Okay. Now, I am going to paint the rocks in place. And those are, I'm going to start with my darkest dark, ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. And then I'll lay that down first and then add color to, brighter color to the top of that. So a little bit of linseed oil, thin it down a little, and this will really set off the rocks from the background. See that sharp contrasting edge? What a difference that makes with the wave. Okay, ultramarine blue, burnt sienna. Let's come over here and do that too. I'm thinking of angular. You never want to give rocks curves. I had to learn the hard way. For so many years I just painted them like round little lumps of dark potatoes and they just didn't look right. Let's get that all nice dark tone in there. Okay, so these are almost even, so I don't want that either. I think I'm going to pull this up higher than that side. Yeah, that's fine. Now I know that that's darker than I need, but that's okay because I'm going to paint light over the top of that. And then, so that light is yellow ochre, burnt sienna. Got light coming that direction. Well, it's like a middle tone. Okay, so we'll paint that for the middle tone. I'm not going to get real fussy with these because I just want to keep it simple. All right, and then some highlights. Yellow ochre, like that. That's more, we need more yellow ochre. And burnt sienna. Here we go. Pick up a few places where the light would hit it more intense. That's fine. Okay, now I think I'm just going to trickle in some water, like water's hitting these rocks, just a little. All right, now the fun thing. I've been waiting for this. I keep a toothbrush in my brush holder. So let's get some Gamsol in there. Get a nice soupy mixture of white. Yep, you guessed it, sea foam. So I do this with my brush. I just get kind of a bath in there. Now if you want to wear gloves, you can. I'm just gonna go like that, and look at that. All of a sudden, you have dribbles. Oh, you might get that too. Just go with it. And how fun is that? This is so cool. Again, be careful not to overdo it, because it would be easy to do. I don't like those sharp edges there, so I'm just going to get rid of those. There. Oh, that feels almost sculpted. I like that. It's always a good day when you can get your finger into your paint. Alright. How are we doing? Maybe that's, we'll just go out right off the canvas. Yeah, let's get some down here. Let's do a blue mixture. Some white and some blue, because, you know, the shadow has to have some foam too. It can't be white sprinkles. That wouldn't make sense. Okay, I am drawing a line. That's it. Okay. All right, well, I finished the wave painting and I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll try this one sometimes. And again, if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and like and subscribe and hit the bell to be notified. All right, you guys, thanks so much. Have a good day. Bye.